In the late 1980s, Toyota realised they were never going to have a piece of the luxury car brand market. So what did they do? Well, they created a whole new brand, the Lexus. Lexus was designed for people that wanted a luxury car but didn't want the stigma of what BMWs or Mercedes brought to them. They wanted something that was a little bit more fun, a little bit different, a real talking point, and that's certainly what they got early on. Fast forward 3 decades and Lexus are still building luxury cars, but are they still on point, or are they getting a little bit embarrassing dad now? Well, I certainly fall into that embarrassing dad category, so I hope by the end of today I can give you a really honest opinion all about this Lexus UX300e. UX, it stands for Urban Explorer. Now, I think it's really important that we keep hold of that phrase, Urban Explorer, because this is what this car's been designed to be, an urban car. And I think when we look around it and we look at different points of it, it's very easy to get carried away and say a car should be something for everybody. It shouldn't. Quite clearly, they've designed this for a market. So let's keep that in mind when we're looking around it. And let's start at the front, because by far and away, this is the nicest part. And I don't think there's any disputing that this is a statement piece. This front grille, I think, looks absolutely incredible. I love the look of it. The angles, the design, this is so Lexus. This is what Lexus do really, really well. They give us really sharp design features that really draw your eye into what they want you to see. So in particular here, we've got these lovely points that come right into this grille and tell us, have a look at this big snarling grille. The rest of it, these lights and the way that the bonnet all flows down into the front, I think that just accentuates and highlights these angles. And for me, this is a really, really nice front end. And what you find here on the side is, well, very SUV crossover of the moment. It's got these big black rubber bits that you see everywhere. That's what you see on crossovers and SUVs right now. So it's very styling of the time. I really love this fold here that sweeps up above the electric badge, and the folds across here that bring this whole area. This, to me, is my favourite bit of the side. I really like how they've done that, and the trim just across the wing mirror. What I don't like is these rubber bits across the wheels, the wheel arches. They're okay, and it's, why are you going over here? Why have you not just swept it back down? This kind of right angle they've created makes it look like, well, the wheel doesn't feel the wheel arch properly. I really don't like that. I don't understand why they've done it. The wheels are lovely, nice big alloy wheels. Now, this is the top of the range Lexus with the Takumi pack on it, which means you get a hell of a lot extra for your money, but you do pay an awful lot of money. This particular model is pretty much loaded with everything. You're looking at high £50,000. So very, very clearly, this is in the luxury car market. If you didn't have all that and you went lower down the range, then you're mid to high £40,000. And I'll try and point out some of the differences as we go around. But those wheels are really nice. The side's really nice. Why they've done this bit here, they've got themselves carried away. A little bit extra plastic I think they didn't need to put in. And back here, well, those angles carry on, which is nice. This sweeping light round here and these raised bits, again, very Lexus, very nice across the top here. It looks like a small window, but actually there's plenty of view out the back you'll see when we're driving. Again, as per SUVs, lovely, lovely, really nice, really great, really great. Big plastic lump on the bottom. Yes, this is more styled than most. It looks okay, not my cup of tea, but the back end I think is all right. The front is where it sells it for me though. And while we're back here, let's have a quick look in the boot. As you'd expect, it's a premium brand. It's all electric. But what you don't expect is the size, 486 litres, which isn't particularly big, but across the whole of the UX range, this is the biggest one when you look at all the different hybrids and configurations you can get. The all-electric gives you the biggest boot of all. You'll see there's a bit of a lip down to load it. We've got a 60/40 rear split seat and a false floor that we can pick up, and there's all the charging cables and bits and pieces under there out of the way. There's a couple of other bits in the back like hooks, but well, that's about it. Not a great boot, not a great size. You probably just about get your family shop in there, maybe a pushchair, but not a lot else. The other interesting thing about this car is it's got 2 charge points, one on each side at the rear. Now the one on this side here, this is my Type 2 charger, so I can charge from my wall point at 6.6 or 7 kilowatts. Around the other side, we've got a shadow mode charger, which will charge DC at 50 kilowatts. Now, 50 kilowatts isn't particularly fast, but then let's come back to what this is designed for, being around the town, with the range it's got, and we'll talk about that later. Actually, you shouldn't need to rapid charge very often if you use it for what it's designed to use. But the fact is that we do go on longer journeys and we do need to top up every now and again. And to have something that only charges at 50 kilowatts seems a little bit old hat now. And CHAdeMO. The only other brand that are really using CHAdeMO in any great numbers is Nissan, which means that we still have chargers with CHAdeMO on. Everyone else has gone CCS. So if this is my fear, if Nissan stop using CHAdeMO, then perhaps those CHAdeMO chargers might start disappearing, which means cars like this might suffer. Inside the UX300e, we find a decent amount of space up the front. Now, bear in mind, this car, the segment it sits in is the same segment as the BMW X2. This car itself is slightly longer, slightly taller, but a little bit narrower. But the way this cabin is laid out, it gives you a feeling of a decent amount of room considering the size of the car. Straightaway quality, this is a premium brand. You can feel that in everything. The materials used in here feel really, really nice. There is nothing particularly scratchy around. I could start feeling down here underneath, but who does that really? Let's be honest, it's this stuff up here that you see, you touch, you interact with, feels really nice. The layout, well, when I saw pictures, I was planning to tell you about how bitty it felt, like you had almost 3D printed individual parts and tried to bolt them together to make them work. Actually, sitting in this car, it all works brilliantly. You've got these funny little handlebar thing knobs up here. One's for your traction control. Why that has to be so prominent, not sure. The other's for changing your driving mode, so sport, normal and eco. So that's quite handy having it up there. But the display in front of me, that looks great. The screen here, now because this is the top of the range, the screen is slightly bigger, but it is a nice big screen and a really good display. We've got an old analog clock, not sure that fits, but there it is. A lot of people like that sort of thing. Across here, we've got these piano button switches, which again, I think are quite nice. Not everybody wants a touch screen, and it's probably just as well if you don't want a touch screen there, because there isn't one, and I'll show you how it works in a minute. Moving down, we've got all the adjustments and the buttons for a heated steering wheel and for the seats. Again, this is top of the range, so we get the fans in the seats to keep us nice and cool. I've got wireless charging here, some cup holders, and then we get to this interesting bit that I'm not really sure if it works or not. So I've got this little gear or drive select lever, which gives me reverse, neutral drive and B mode. Then I've got this touchpad to make the screen work. It feels a bit odd under your finger. It's the first time I've used it, and I'm going to give this a chance, but you have to give it a definite click to make it select anything on there. As it moves over something that you can interact with, you feel a haptic feedback. It seems to be quite responsive, but we'll see. We'll give that a go. And then you've got this unusual bit here, which is for your radio controls and your media controls. So I can tune, I can turn the volume up and down, I can select radio or different media. It's all kind of here. Very odd, because I've still got it on my steering wheel. So I'm not sure what the thinking is behind that, but we'll see. And then on the steering wheel, everything on the right gives me the car functions. So I've got lane assist, I've got adaptive cruise control, all those things in there. And everything on the left, kind of menus and radio interaction, and the controls are there for that. Otherwise, buttons for windows and things are pretty much standard. Quite an interesting little thing here. My center armrest lifts up. Nothing unusual about that, but it also lifts that way for the passenger. Exactly the same. I think that's really clever. And then inside, we've got a couple of charging points and an AUX point. So that is the front. I think it's nice and comfortable up here. I think there's a nice little room. In here, we've got a sunroof. Gotta be honest, that sunroof isn't really doing it for me. In an era where we've got glass roofs in cars and everything looks really, really nice and it's all integrated into the roof, we've got a button to side it forward and back and one to make it go tilt up and down. That's pretty old-fashioned as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't expect it in a premium brand. But that probably is the only negative thing I've got to say in here. Let's have a look in the back and see what that's like. Well, back here, not a lot of room, I've got to be honest. My feet are kind of under the seat here. Knee-wise, that's pretty good, that's not bad. It just feels a little bit cramped. Actually, I've got room on my head, so I'm 5'9", that is my driving position. it gives the illusion of being cramped. Actually sitting here is okay for room. It's not bad, other than my feet having to be under there. And of course, with a lot of electric cars, you find the floor's that little bit higher, the seat's that bit lower, so I've not got much support under my knees, which is never a good thing. You do feel quite enclosed. I think because the sides slope inwards and you've got this roof that's quite dark, it makes you feel as if you're cocooned in here, and I don't like that. It's actually, there is more room, and I should give it credit for that. Back here then, I've got no pocket here, but I've got a seat pocket here. Guess that's what used to happen in the old days, wasn't it? So the driver could put their hand back and reach in there. There was no need for them to reach this side, but I think nowadays we're used to that. I've got some vents here. Down here I can put my heated seat on and off, and I've got a couple of charging points here to charge my phone. In the middle we've got an armrest with a couple of cup holders in it, and we've got Isofix. Other than that, pretty standard back here. I wouldn't want to have 3 people in the back, certainly 3 adults. That central section, it doesn't give you much room at all, but comfortable for 2 adults in the back or a small family. I think you'll be fine. The drive in this car is very civilised, I have to say, especially in the urban environment. It's very easy to drive, the steering is very light, the view all around you is very good. Even out of that little back window you've got a good view. You've got the 360 cameras in here. Everything just works very, very nicely. The only little criticism around the town are the brakes feel a little bit grabby. I've had it for 24 hours now, so normally I would have got used to the brakes by now, but they're still just, when you're rolling up to traffic lights or a roundabout, you just want that finesse to be able to control the speed on your brake. It just grabs hold a bit too sharply, which isn't very nice. Whether that's because it's a new car, whether it's just this car, I don't know, but that's what I'm finding at the moment. Out on the open road, well, it remains very civilised. It's very easy to drive, unless you want to make a bit of progress. And if you want to make a bit of progress, I'd forgotten just how much fun a powerful front-wheel drive car can actually be. I'm so used to driving rear-wheel drive cars where they're very seated on the road, very simple to drive. This goes back to almost like a hot hatch. Loads of torque steering, very much oversteers round corners. The steering is very, very direct. And what was sort of light, actually, it's got a surprising amount of feedback. You can feel all that oversteer, all that torque driving very easily. It's all there, and it makes it fun to go fast, which from all these very civilised cars we've had for a long time, this to me was going to be a luxury car that maybe for a small family or a single person that did everything very nicely. Well, actually, it's a hoot to drive, I have to say. If you want to get on and you want to have some fun, it's definitely there to be had. And while we're in here, all that quirkiness that we spoke about before, about the buttons and things being in strange places, but it's funny, when you drive it, it starts to make a bit of sense. Let me give you an example. So a lot of people I know drive along with their arm on the centre armrest. As soon as you put your arm there, your hand falls right into the correct place to use all the radio controls and the touchpad. Everything's to hand. The buttons are all nicely laid out exactly where you want them to be. The steering wheel and the flappy paddles. The flappy paddles give you a little bit more regen. Pull the left one, you've got 3 stages. It just slows the vehicle down a bit more. Everything is in the right place. It's as if the Lexus designers have said, right, don't worry about what it looks like. Shut your eyes, tell me where it would be really convenient, really comfortable to have everything. And they've done that. Yes, at first glance, it does look a bit of a mess, but when you're driving it, it tends to make sense. And back to those flappy paddles, so I've obviously got dry and B mode. B mode gives me a bit more regen, and I've got the addition of some more regen by using the flappy paddles. It's not one pedal driving, it doesn't bring you to a stop, but it definitely makes it, for me, I like the regen to be in place because it means you don't have to use your brakes as much. It gives you a smoother drive, and by not using your brakes as much, your pads and your discs last longer, so that's got to be a good thing. So that's what that gives you in here. And looking forward in here, I've got the head-up display option in this car, and it always amazes me how good they are. It's not something I ever look for in a car, but whenever I'm in one that's got it, I really like it because it gives me some great information right there in front of me. And what it does is it makes a pretty average nav system actually quite usable. It on the right hand side of the head-up display, it gives you the information about the next thing that you have to do, the next turning you have to make, where it is, etc. It takes, as I say, that nav system from being very, very plain and ordinary to being actually quite usable. That said, I think I'd stick to my Google Maps. And sound-wise in here, well, as you'd expect, it's an electric vehicle. it's got a high price tag, it should be luxurious, and it's very quiet. There's very little road noise, very little wind noise. In fact, initially I thought there was a lot of wind noise, but then I realised I had the fans on in my seat and they blow up over my shoulder and brush my ear, and I thought that was some wind noise, but it wasn't. It was just my seat and not the usual wind noise that my seat makes. And facts and figures wise, well, we've got a 50 kilowatt hour battery. It's actually bigger than that, but Lexus tell us what's usable. They don't tell us the full capacity, because that would be wrong. Like a lot of manufacturers who do tell us the full capacity. If you can't use it, why tell us about it? That's what we can tap into. And that produces 201 horsepower from the motor. Range wise, well, they talk about best part of 200 miles, 190 miles. In reality, I've been driving now 70 odd miles, so I've got 80 miles left, so about 150 miles. If I turn my aircon on, that 80 miles drops to 74 miles left, so under 150 miles with the aircon on. So my driving's been mainly A roads, quite a bit of town driving, a bit of playing about, obviously for test purposes. I've not been on any motorways or dual carriageways, and I've not done sustained 70 miles an hour. So if you did that, you could probably reckon on, I don't know, 130, 140, depending what sort of speed and what the conditions are. Driving position wise, well, the seat is incredibly comfortable, as you would expect in a car like this. So many adjustments on it, you can get really comfortable. The steering wheel up and down, in and out, it's all electronic, and of course it remembers where it needs to be. It folds itself back when you turn it off and get out, it comes towards you when you get in. All these things that you expect on a luxury car. I've got a lovely view out, front, back and sides, and the instrument layouts, well, what initially looked busy, again, they've obviously thought about what we need to see when we're driving. Even take away that head-up display, the speed and the information that I need to see quickly is all there right in front of me. It's really, really easy to use and to view when you're driving along and you just need to glance down. So there you have it, the Lexus UX300e, a car that has actually surprised me today, because when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a bit of a mismatch of shapes and colours and designs, and it wasn't really going to go well together. But having driven it, I love the styling from outside. I think the styling inside probably leaves its personal taste, and I quite like that styling inside. It's not as different as it used to be in a Lexus compared to some of its German equivalents. You used to buy a Lexus in the old days because German cars were boring inside. Lexus had something interesting, something different to look at. Well, I think German cars and other brands that have now come online, they've taken things a little bit further, and they've taken that wacky, crazy, buttons everywhere design that used to look really cool and trendy. They've taken it and simplified it and made it better. They've done what Apple have done to the mobile phone, simplified everything, made it very, very usable. Lexus maybe have got a little bit left behind with that. But that's not to say that it isn't practical and functional inside. Everything seems to be in the place that you need or want it, which makes it really, really easy to drive. And driving wise, well, as I said, it's a lovely car to drive. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we come back to that question, is this an embarrassing dad? Well, I think it hasn't quite reached the levels of embarrassing dad yet, certainly not the levels that I can reach with my children. But what I think it's done is it's more a dad that probably is borrowed his teenage son's jacket to go out to the pub in, and all his mates are giving him a bit of a ribbing about it. It's kind of nearly there, but it's not quite there. Let's be honest, Lexus, the people that buy Lexus are very, very brand loyal, and I think they will continue to buy Lexus like this, no matter what the price tag, because that's the brand they like. They like something a little bit different. They don't want to follow the crowd and be the same as everyone else. And this car ticks all those boxes beautifully. It's a lovely car. It will keep those people very, very happy. It may even tempt a few people over that don't want to take an electric car to the Tesla extremes where it is so different. They want something that's familiar and feels really, really well made and luxurious. And that's what they're going to get here. Bear in mind also though, Lexus, if you're not happy with this, have said that in the future they are looking to build a 90 kilowatt hour concept car, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. There's a whole list of specification, something to get very excited about, which will match them up with what we're seeing in other brands at the moment. So this isn't it for Lexus. This is their first toe in the water, and I think they've done a very good job. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have, remember to like and share. If you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care. I want to say a big thank you to Hendy Lexus in Poole, Dorset, who loaned me the car for this review. All their details can be found below in the description.